fail to understand, and the same incredible terror that's menacing me will strike at you!
Hey guys, hopefully someone will show up soon. There's not anybody here, but this is what happens when you go on at such a late notice. Well, I'm always happy to get the practice. I hope you all had a great New Year's. You made it home safe, or you made it to bed safe, or you made it through the night safe somehow. Anyway, you guys goaded me into sharing my Irish stew um, recipe, so I put it in my community page. And hopefully you all go there and check it out. It's really good. Uh, hold on one second. One second. Okay, hold on. Let me just, something's wrong here. Okay, good. So, oh, somebody showed up. Oh, it's Stana. Rhymes with Donna. Hey, Stana, how are you? So, I know, Stana, you'll bring good luck. I know other people will follow you in. Uh, Sometimes I really wish this was like a two-way thing and we could all talk live, but inappropriate heifers here. Hey, hey. Um, so I'm assuming you all had a good New Year's. Mine was pretty good. I made a down and dirty video of my Irish stew. I really hope you guys check it out. I mean, not the video. I'll show you the video. We'll get a couple more people in here. Hey, Tina, how are you? Mm, mm. Oh my God, this is so good. It came out so good. I probably should have eaten it before I got with you guys, but I just finished. Well, we're waiting for people to show up here. Let me show you what I got here. Uh, this is crazy. Let me open this up. Okay, so here we go. First of all, we got a little. This is basically all the ingredients. I really didn't have time to do a decent video, but I thought at least I'd show you what it looks like. You know, I'm trying to develop Mitch's kitchen here, so. And dastardly saboteur. Keep in mind, women really like to be cooked. Okay, look. So look, I was in such a hurry. I even had my camera turned the wrong way. So you need to first you need to brown the lamb. Do it in batches. Get it nice and brown. Cut up your vegetables. I didn't get a shot of me doing the onions. Here we got to put a little. Yeah, I'm just going to let it play. You'll see what it looks like. That's my favorite part. The Guinness. And then, of course, you know, I saved one sip for the chef. Then you're going to cook this for 90 minutes. And then after that, you're going to put your vegetables in and simmer it for another half hour. And then it's going to be done. Is not that beautiful? Check it out. Hey, Johnny, thanks for coming by. Yeah, munching with Mitch. At least I'm not crunching. Last night was like crunching with Mitch. Anyway, that's the deal. So this is going to be my new family tradition. No more lobster. That's the thing of the past. So, I know this is really rude eating in front of you guys. So I don't know about you, but I stayed up until like 5 a.m. watching movies. I watched what's it called? I watched the Maestro with the Bradley Cooper's film. I liked it. It was good. I thought they focused a little bit too much on Leonard Bernstein's kind of his tragedies and his character flaws, and not as much on his creativity I would have liked to, because I remember as a kid he used to do all this television and these youth concerts, and taught kids about classical music. I wish they would have showed a little bit more. They just made him into this kind of tragic figure, and I don't know that that's fully true. 7 a.m. for heifer. Okay, cool. I'm almost done with this, guys. I'm sorry, I'm starved. I mean, literally, I was cooking this for hours. It's not that bad. It's not that difficult to cook. It takes a little bit of time, but it's a pretty simple thing. One thing I wanted to mention, I got some messages. I wanted to, because of the stream I did yesterday about psychiatry, I wanted people to really understand that I'm not against psychiatry. I'm against the abuses in psychiatry, and I'm hoping that some of the advances in the new emerging technologies will lead to a kinder, gentler form of mental health treatment. So I just wanted to make sure that because I did hear from somebody who seems like a very caring person who works in acute psychiatry, and they were concerned that I was a little too overly strident in my objections, but that's where that's at. So listen, I came through for you guys on the Irish stew. I know not all of you are going to be meat eaters. I know I was off of meat for about 5 years, just for the heck of it. I only got back on it about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. So I'll come up with some plant-based meal if you want. Um, something. You just have to let me know. But I'm telling you, if you're a lamb fan, this is amazing. Next time I do beef stew, we'll do that. So I'm kind of partial sometimes to comfort food. I really like making these one pot meals. So and I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I'm decent. I mean, I think everybody knows how to cook today, right? Because because of the internet, because of Chef Google and all of the cooking shows, and we pick stuff up. We pick up stuff. I know that when I became a bachelor again, um, I hate that thing, that screensaver. Uh, when I became a bachelor again, I decided to learn to cook because I decided uh, I wasn't gonna be that, that that kind of sad bachelor who eats over the sink. Uh, and I have to say, women really enjoy being cooked for. They really like it. So that's just a little tip for the guys out there. Uh, I mean, you girls could tell me if I'm right about that, but I know it's just like I think a woman when you cook for a woman, they really appreciate it because it's sort of a role that they've been expected to do. But and then they never call them chefs, right? Although that's changed a lot. But it was like women are cooks and men are chefs. Like I never understood that. Some of the best cooks I've known are men and women, but women really enjoy being cooked for. So guys, it's a great way to a woman's heart, right? Does anybody disagree with that? Yes, we do. Exactly. Um, yeah, okay, good. Anyway, I hope you guys make this and report back to me and let me know what you think of it. I usually go a little heavier on the carrots and on the potatoes. I like to put a little extra veggies in, and then Dastardly Saboteur says all of the men in my family are amazing cooks. Yeah, that's great to hear. I know that my father taught my mother to cook. She was a really good cook, but she was like my mother was very much a proto-feminist, and she was like way involved in her career. And she never, saw any of the, she just wasn't like a. She learned to cook, and she was a really good cook. My father was a cook in my family. Dastardly Saboteur says not a fan of lamb. Yeah, I can understand that. It has a kind of a gamey taste to it. But if you like Guinness, when you mix a little Guinness with the lamb, it's really quite good. Uh, I don't really have any news for you. I was Scientology or otherwise, so I guess we'll just chat. Uh, well, what about beef? What about beef, Dastardly Scepter? Are you a vegan? No, or you just don't like lamb? We'll do some beef stew. I have a beef stew recipe that's amazing that uses dry red wine, and you cook with you put the Dutch oven in the actual oven. This lamb stew just cooks on the stove. The other one cooks on the stove and in the oven. Because cast iron stuff, you can put it in the oven, and that's amazing. It takes literally hours and hours to cook, but it's amazing. So, uh, thanks, Joni. Happy New Year. I think that's for everybody. So, what are you guys planning for tonight? Anyway, I mean, is everybody going back to work tomorrow? I don't really work. I'm not really unemployed. I'm a full time author now, um, but Oh, wow, Joni, that's really cool. Your dad taught you to cook. That's really nice. Uh, okay, so inappropriate heifer says she's actually cooking now, so I won't be in the chat much. Wait a minute, you're back east. So it's like 11:40 where you are. What are you doing cooking so late at night? Oh, yeah, because you didn't get to bed till 5. Okay, fine. Uh, so Tina in the last 20 said, yes, Mitch, please. I think she's referring to the beef stew, and we'll do that. Yeah, Stana said, oh, yeah, love lamb cooked in a pit with lots of garlic, the Serbian way. Absolutely. That whole sort of Asian, Middle Eastern way of, cooking lamb is with lots of garlic and mint and yes, it's really amazing. Uh, so yeah, yes, Tina, I'm going to definitely do beef stew. And critical thinking's back. Let's see what critical thinking has to say. Are you working on another book, or are you busy promoting your current book? Kind of both. I'm busy trying to get my book promoted and get my audiobook done, and then I'm also outlining a novel. It's kind of a long story. If you read the first 3 chapters of my book, which are things that happened before I got into Scientology, I was working on a screenplay a few years ago that it's not autobiographical. How can I explain this? I would say it's reflective of my life, but it's not autobiographical. Uh, So I'm working on that, and was writing a script, and then some of that became autobiographical and became part of my book. So now I'm going to write that script as a novel. So I'm working on that, and probably write a script from it afterwards. Uh, and Critical Thinking TV also has, are you voicing your audiobook? I am. Uh, I don't think when it comes to personal autobiographical stories, I think I want to hear them from the author. Like I want to hear them in the author's voice. I always feel that they're a little bit at a distance when somebody else reads a person's story. And I mean, I think Brad Pitt could have done a good job, or John Hamm. These aren't necessarily actors. I think they would be good to read audiobooks, but I couldn't get them. So actually, I didn't try. But yeah, I am voicing my own audiobook. That's I guess critical thinking. You came a little late to the party, but this tent that I'm in, we call it the Sound Blanket Fort. I built this space for recording, and then I decided to start streaming in it because I had to move a bunch of my equipment in here. And then so I hung a couple lights, but here's the mic, my other mic that I'm using for recording the book, and that's the computer that I'm in the background that I'm recording it on. And I just thought it would be a good incentive to get it done would be to get the hell out of this little space, because getting in here is like, I feel like one of the Gemini astronauts. You kind of have to squeeze in, and it's like there's not a lot of room, but it's cozy, and it reminds me of literally being in a like a blanket fort when you were a kid. Yeah, Joni, thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. And if you have, thank you. Have I ever taught? Yeah, I have. Let me see. I taught an advertising class for 3 years at Art Center College of Design. That was the most intensively I've ever taught. I mean, I taught my younger son how to edit. I got him started. He's a way better editor than I am. He's a professional editor and a filmmaker, and he's very talented. So yeah, I taught a class in advertising. It's a really funny story. A guy, an art director at Art Center. I didn't go to Art Center. I went to Cal Arts, but there was an art director teaching a class one night a week at Art Center. If you've not heard of it, it's a famous design, photography, and automotive design school in Pasadena, California. And this guy bailed, and one of the instructors there was an advertising executive who I knew. And so he called me up last minute and said, hey, can you come take this class over? Because the guy who normally does it has bailed for a while. And it was a class in drawing storyboards for television commercials, which I'd had a lot of experience with. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed hanging out with the kids, and yeah, it was great. I like teaching. Teaching's a lot of fun. I'd love to teach film history. I just don't know where I could do it and make enough money. But I'd really like to teach film theory and film history because those are two of my favorite subjects. Okay, so Critical Thinking TV wants to know, will it be available on audio? Yeah, it'll be available on all audiobook format platforms. It'll be on Audible. It'll be on, well, mainly on Audible and on Apple. So Joni Cummings asked Mitch, "Do you think you would teach?" I would if I could find the right platform for teaching. I mean, in person at a school. There's a few film schools in LA. Uh, but yeah, anyway, when I was about 10 years ago, I was really trying to leave gold. I was trying to figure out I need to do something. And one of my plans was there's a really good film school. It's actually considered one of the best film schools in the world in Cuba. And I've always been very romantically inclined to go visit Cuba. I've had friends who lived there. I had a friend whose daughter studied at the film school there. She transferred there from a school in London. And I wrote them, and it just kind of never worked out. They really want you to speak Spanish and have more Hollywood credits than I had, but I probably could. Then there's also another really good film school in Costa Rica, and so I was actually trying to bail and just go disappear into a South American, into Cuba or Central America and teach film. Uh, Do I have a video, Critical Thinking TV, do I have a video that explains your recording setup? No, I don't, but the recording setup is pretty simple. I could do that. There's a lot of people on YouTube that know a lot more about it than I do. You need, first and foremost, I can just tell you in a nutshell, and if you really want to know, you can send me an email, and I'll be happy to give you any information that I have. First and foremost, you need a quiet place. It doesn't matter what equipment you have, how much you spend on equipment. You have to have a quiet place. There's a platform, you may know about this, it's called ACX. It's part of Amazon. It's an audiobook marketplace. If you're a voiceover talent or you want to be, that's where you would put your sample tape, your rehearsal tape. If you're a recording artist, or recording technical person who has services that ACX is a marketplace. It's also where you upload your book for distribution to Audible, Amazon, and Apple. They sort of handle all of it, and they have very specific specifications they want. I don't know if I can remember offhand. You can go to ACX, get uh, a free account, and explore the technical aspect of it. They want what's called a 60 dB noise floor, which is a very quiet space, and then they want nothing louder than, I think, 3 dB, and then or -3, and then they want everything between 12 and 18. They have these numbers, and if you're familiar with recording software, it's pretty easy to figure those numbers out. So first thing I did was I built this space out of I'm underneath an aluminum bunk bed. I actually did a video on it. Um, it's actually an adult platform queen size bunk bed that I had put in storage because my son was no longer using it. He moved out. I put it up. I surrounded it with sound blankets. I put a little desk in it. I hung some lights so I could stream. It's very quiet. I'm not using this mic. I'm using a different type of mic. Uh, and the mic works great. And fortunately, I have a very good friend who I've known for many years. We worked together in Scientology, and we've both been out. He's been out since 2012. Jeff Levin, you may have seen me stream with him. Jeff has done hundreds and hundreds of hours of voice recording, and he's built studios. So I sent him my files, and he basically checked them. And then also ACX has a thing called Sound Lab that you can upload files to, and they will check them so that you don't go ahead and so you don't go ahead and produce an entire book and then find out that it's bad. So uh, yeah, so slightly different topic. Inappropriate heifer explaining why she's cooking. I haven't eaten today, so I figured I'd better cook something. Yeah, you need to. It's not good to not eat like that. It's that whole binge purge thing. You don't want to be doing that. Um, Tina, the last 20 says, what do you think about writers who have terrible voice quality? Well, I think they have terrible voice quality. I have not encountered an author reading their own work that had a terrible voice quality. I haven't. No, I'm trying to think. Cheryl Strayed has read some of her stuff. I like her voice. She isn't going to have a career reading other people's stuff, but she's amazing at reading her stuff. She sounds like your friend is talking to. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I guess if the quality of their voice is harming the communication, then they should definitely think of having somebody else do it. Uh, okay, hold on a second. Tina last 20. Heifer, it's a little early for lamb. Yeah, it is. I'll second that advice. Okay, Critical Thinking TV says, would you post an educational series on Curiosity Stream? For one thing, I don't know how to do that. I would have to contact them and figure it out. And I don't know what their revenue sharing is like. I would love to do an education series. I can tell you one thing I am going to be working on is I'm helping a friend of mine who's an artist who I had on a stream. Her name is Carolyn Mustard. She used to be in the Sea Org. She left some years ago, probably 10 years, 12 years ago. And Carolyn is a very talented artist. She teaches art. She wants to develop, her and her partner, a YouTube channel. I'm going to be helping with that and kind of helping them, craft the educational materials. She has a book on Amazon called The Joy of Drawing, and she also, her and her partner, have a website called The Joy of Drawing, and so that's going to be interesting. So that at least will give me an opportunity to help create some educational materials and I'm very excited about doing that. And Tina Les 20 said TV, great idea. Yeah, I'd love to do something for TV. And yes, Tina in the last 20, she refers to this as the Mitch Cave. It is. I call it the Sound Blanket Fort because it feels like yeah. So here's a personal question from Vegan 3, which is totally fine. You must have gotten married before Golden Era. Hard to imagine how otherwise you married outside the cult. Yeah, I did marry outside the cult, but I'm trying to think. I met my former wife shortly before I went to work for Gold, and then so we were actually living together, and then I was up there for maybe a year or so. We got married. Uh, but yeah, I don't know that if I wasn't working for them, we ever would have gotten married. I mean, it's like that's a weird thing to kind of say because we have two wonderful kids. So it's like, what am I saying, that they wouldn't have existed? So it all worked out. Uh, so yeah, but I hope Critical Thinking TV that I hope I answered your question about doing an audiobook. And if you're interested in knowing anything, I mean, one of the reasons why I did this is I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna maybe share my experience a little bit with people. I can tell you one of the first challenge. Well, the first challenge was a quiet space. The second challenge was finding the right mic. You want to use a condenser mic, not a dynamic mic. This is a dynamic mic. They're very good for drowning out sound in the background. They're not super sensitive. So you want a dynamic mic that they're super sensitive. And I think I'm a little out of focus. Interesting. Well, I'll fix that for the next stream. Sorry about that, guys. Uh, so you want to get a dynamic mic. I have this pretty decent. It's a Rode R1 or NV1. Belongs to my kid. He uses it a voice mic. He's a very talented musician. And Jeff Hawkins, I'm sorry, not Jeff Hawkins, Jeff Levin, my musician friend said, look, the most important thing about a mic is it has to sort of match your voice. So fortunately, that voice mic matches my voice. And so hopefully I'll be able to pull this off. So yeah, I think Teen in the last 20 is referring to Stephen King as being a reader. Is that right? Who doesn't necessarily have a good voice? I don't know. I've never really listened to any of his books. If this wasn't so good, I wouldn't be eating in front of you guys. And plus, I literally just finished it before we started. Oh, but she wasn't cult. No, but she was really cute. No, you mean in Scientology? Yeah, she was in Scientology. Absolutely. Her parents, her father, her stepmother had an aunt and uncle, a couple of cousins, one of these Mormon type. Half the families are Mormon and the other half are like, you know. Mm. Now I'm just being a pig. No, she was in Scientology. She left. I don't know exactly. That's her story. We were divorced. I think around 2012 she left. And all my kids left. I mean, it's one of the things that makes it a little hard for them to fair game me. I don't have any family in Scientology, and I don't have any business dealings. I don't have any. There's nothing they can. What are they going to disconnect me from? I broke up with them. Oh, Vegan 3 said, "Oh, I thought she was a Mormon." No, I mean she grew up in a kind of one of these not real intense. I mean, her parents were never that intensely Mormon. Her grandparents were pretty Mormon, but yeah, yeah, I think she identifies a little bit as a descendant of Brigham Young, but that doesn't mean you identify with the religion. That's a cultural thing, like being Jewish. I was raised in a Jewish household, but we weren't Jews. We were like Jewish, if you know what I mean. Anyway, if my focus is bothering anybody, tell me and I'll refocus it. Yeah, I didn't think he read his books. Teen in the Lost 20, thanks for that. King doesn't read his books, but I don't. Possibly it's because he doesn't have a great voice. So here's another one from a Vegan 3. Did you know Jim Shoker? He did the audio for Emmys, Grammys. No, I don't. I didn't know him. I'm not sure how I would have known him. So, okay. And then the next challenge. So you get a quiet space, you get a mic. The next thing you're going to have to determine is what software platform you're going to record on. So I tested a whole bunch of them. And then my son, who's very adept with audio recording software, who's said, hey, he'll produce. He's basically producing the audiobook, and so we settled on Apple's Logic Pro X, which I never used it, but it's a very easy program to use, and it's good for recording and editing. And because then he and I are on the same platform, and then I can turn files over to him for editing. So that's the other thing you're gonna have to figure out. There's some good platforms out there. There's one called, help me out here, guys. What's the one called? It's the free one. God, I don't know why I can't remember it, but I thought it was I thought the interface was really, really funky. I didn't like it. I couldn't imagine spending hours a day staring at that thing. That's interesting, Joni. Joni grew up in a half Mormon, half Methodist family. I wonder what that was like. If they wore there's got to be a joke in there somewhere that's not too disrespectful to religious people. Okay, so that's who this guy was. Vegan 3 says that he was an OT from way back. No, I never knew him. Critical TV Thinking asks, did you know the Headleys while in the who? The Headleys? No, yeah, I knew them really well. I knew them before they were the Headleys. I mean, I knew Claire and Mark before they were married. I remember when they got married. Yeah, so Mark showed up at Gold. We both showed up in 1990. I showed up in January. He showed up in maybe May. A few months later, I knew him almost immediately when he showed up there, even though he wasn't working in film. And then he did really well. As he's a very clever problem solver, very go-getter. You could tell that just from experiencing him on YouTube. So then he was made what's called the shoot crew chief, which is like a production manager. So then he and I worked, very closely for a few years, and then he stayed mostly in the what's called the cine division of Gold. He was the shoot crew chief. Then he was the pre-production director, a person prepping films, and then he was yeah. Hey, Happy New Year! Let's get some fireworks here. Fireworks, fireworks. I feel like Harry Potter with like batteries ran out of my wand. So yeah, great guy. Mark was a great guy, and was really happy to be able to reconnect with him and Claire. I think they're truly amazing people, and they're very very caring people. Are we going to continue? Hold on a sec. We're going to get there. Headley's family. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. You're asking about Resolve, as in DaVinci Resolve. I edit in DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love DaVinci. Actually, my younger son, who's an editor, turned me on to DaVinci Resolve. I had only known it in its first iteration as a color grading platform before they expanded it. Uh, I think it's going to become the industry standard. I think it's absolutely the best professional editing platform out there. It's amazing because there's two varieties of it. There's a free variety, which is 100% as powerful as the licensed one, which only costs less than $300. You just get some extra filters and things if you pay and you can finish in 4K if you're doing a motion picture for theaters. But I edit everything in Resolve. Technically, I use OBS for recording, and I use StreamYard for streaming, which I don't like it. I'd like to use OBS, but it's a little complicated. I'm just still learning to do it. Yeah, that's right. DaVinci Resolve. I highly recommend it. Plus, you can download it. Pretty much because it's owned by Blackmagic. Pretty much any Blackmagic product that you buy, you could go buy a $500 editing keyboard, and they'll give you a copy of the $300 version of the software. So it's really a great deal. Yeah, there you go. There's anyway, Joni. Yeah, I was thinking there was a Mormon underwear joke there, but it's only really devout Mormons that do that. So, did Mark learn his audio skills well in? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's learned a lot since then, but I think he did because when he was, God, he must have been 19. He was making cassette tapes, which is a very technical audio line. So I think he got a lot of education. He was really good at opening up a manual and learning how to use a complicated piece of machinery. I mean, I remember this about Mark. He's a very smart guy, and so he actually took advantage of things he was exposed to in Scientology and built on that, and was able to make a real success for himself. It's very admirable. Mark and I think we're going to do one on Thursday. We're going to continue. Mark's been incredibly busy working. The only reason he and I have not continued to do those, but we're going to do them as much as we possibly can. Hey, Duchess Diana says, all your lives with Mark are great. Yeah, because Mark's a great guy. When he was at Gold, I loved working with him. I was sad when they left. I was like, damn you, what did you do that for? So I had to put them in a box, Mark and Claire. It's like what do you call that? It's like a compartmentalization thing. You just because you have this thing of these people, you like these people, but these people are now suppressives. So you put them in a box and you put a really tight lid on it and you don't think about it. And then, of course, when you leave, you then get to release all of that kind of emotional trauma from having to refigure people in your mind that you actually really liked, and all they did was leave, and the reason they left is because they were being screwed over, and I knew that because I saw it. There you go. Teen in the last 20 wants some wild Christians. Try a Kentucky Pentecostal church. Yeah, no kidding. That must be wild, like talking in tongues, right? Don't they talk in tongues? Are they the ones that handle the rattlesnake, the snakes? Do they do that as well? Oh, I had no idea. It's confessional time. Tina or Ohio Pentecostal LOA. LOL grew up in that religion. Far out. Okay, okay. Uh, whoa. Inappropriate heifer. My uncle played piano and sang with Jimmy Swaggart for years. Grandparents were missionaries in Brazil. I have deep roots in that. Heifer, you should write a book about that, even if it's a fictional book. You should write a book about the guy who played piano for Jimmy Swaggart. That could be a fantastic film. If you don't do it, I might do it. Um, okay, I don't have any more questions here, so I'm going to finish off my stew. Not a lot going on YouTube today. I think a lot of people are just taking a break. I think this is about more. Yeah, his first job. He's told that story. His first job when he got out of the sewer was he was fixing computers. I think it was a job his dad got him. Yeah, he might have. But yeah, Mark was always a total gear freak, really understood technological stuff. And so he was able to really take advantage of stuff he was exposed to in the sewer, which is great. Although I give him 99% of the credit goes to him because it was his genius to figure that stuff out and that figured out how to leverage it into a career and then figured out how to continue to get the knowledge that he needed to excel. Critical Thinking TV says some of the most unethical, empathetic, and uncaring people I've ever known were Scientologists. Oh no, I was perfect. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm still on a journey of kind of self-awareness. I mean, I think I'm a lot more self-aware than when I was in Scientology. But you say unethical, you say empathetic and uncaring. How could? Did you mean unempathetic? I think you must have. Lacking empathy, most unethical, lacking empathy, and uncaring people I've ever known were Scientologists. Were you ever like that? I don't think I ever was. I had some. Uh, I'm trying to think. How can I explain this? When I was in Scientology, because most of the time I spent in Scientology, I spent working for the church, mostly for Golden Era Productions. And I was an enabler. Like I was not known. I was known as a person that tended to buffer the crew. I mean, I had people reach out to me after I left. People, especially people I worked with in the early '90s, who I only worked with for a few years, who left and then went on to have successful careers in media, in production. And they were thanked me. And, because I helped them, like two of them said, who became quite successful, said, because of you, I knew stuff that I could have a career in film. I had, you helped me get the confidence and I learned a lot, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of an enabler, right? I wasn't like an abuser. Uh, but at the same time, in my personal life, I was not a great husband. I cheated on my wife. That's a whole nother story. It was very connected with my own sort of trauma response because it was sort of, physical cheating, not emotional cheating. So, maybe I would have been that way anyway. Maybe that had nothing to do with Scientology, but I was not an abusive person. I think I was pretty ethical. Although there were definitely people that I worked with at Gold, some who were incompetent at their jobs, and I couldn't get rid of them because sometimes it's really hard to get rid of people. Like I had people in my crew that I just I couldn't train them, I couldn't help them, I couldn't get them handled. They were terrible at their jobs. I tried to get them fired, and I never could. So that was a big frustration. Some of those people probably didn't like me very much. I can tell you one thing. If you came to the set, if you worked with me and you did good work, which made me look good and it made everybody else look good, I would really support you. And if you did the opposite, I would do everything I could to undermine you. So, and that's not necessarily uh, a great, personality trait. Uh, Let me see. Okay, I want to read this here. But Critical Thinking TV, please keep yeah, I got the typo, but keep asking me questions like that because I'm all about trying to take what my perception of myself is and just beat it with a bat and see what pops out. Which I think is a good thing for anybody to do. But I think having been in such a high control, brain, sort of an indoctrinating cult, you really want to be questioning a lot of your not your values so much because I think my values are pretty good. I mean, I really do really feel very ardently that I am part of a movement to create less harm in the world. And I think that is a very authentic, sincere thing for me. Uh, but I do think there's other aspects of my personality that still automatically react in such a way that is at least slightly harmful. Like I might say something, or I might, because I'm still working that shit out because Scientology really fucks you over. Okay, good. So let's move on here. But I got it on the typo. So I wanted to read this. Oh, and he and my aunt are close friends with Dame Judi Dench. So yeah, the man knows and have a lot of famous people. He has stories. Hey, listen, you should start recording those stories. I'm telling you, uh, I'll help you write a script. I mean, you could. That's like really amazing kind of stuff. Judi Dench. That's funny. Uh, so let's just move along here. Okay, good. Yeah, I think we all get overwhelmed by typos. Yeah, don't worry about it. Hold on. It probably never said poor Mitch has to translate my mess up there. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay. Do not feel sorry for me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. I'm cool. Uh, hey, Meryl J. Hello, all. I made it to a Mitch live stream. Happy New Year. Yeah, this is kind of a funky live stream. This was just I just happened to mention yesterday that I was going to switch it up a little on New Year's Day, and instead of doing lobsters for dinner, I was going to do Irish stew. And people were like, "Oh, well, you need to share that." So here we are. Well, I'm just always happy to come on and be with you guys. And anybody that'll show up, if one person shows up, uh, and yeah, I need. If you haven't bought my book or even checked it out, I kind of wish you would. I don't think I have anything about it here, but yeah, you can go to my merch store. You can go to mitchbrisker.com and you could buy yourself a hardback. It's an Amazon style hardback, which means it doesn't have a dust jacket because I'm still trying to work that out. Uh, and that kind of helps everything a lot. Here, I'll show you. That's like, there you go. So yeah, I have some cool stuff. I had an amazing artist do all of this art. You can get a for $50 plus shipping. You can get an autographed hardback, or you can get here. I'll show you my favorite. This one. This is my favorite mug. This is that's Wolfie. A lot of this art, excuse me, was developed during the course of designing my book, and we didn't have anything. It was left over, so I used it for all kinds of things, like put it on mugs and stuff, and they're very cool. Uh, so there you go. Let me go back to the comments here. Oh no, we don't want to do that. We do not want to do that. I almost accidentally ended my stream. Uh, are we still talking about? Okay, inappropriate heifer. Uh, Maybe after he died, because he's still deeply religious, and And okay, so this is in relation to your uncle who was played piano for Jimmy Swaggart. Yeah, I want to hear more about this guy. Stana said, I had suggested in a previous comment about a book club type of thing to discuss sections of your book at a time. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, but that would preclude people actually reading it. And I would love to answer questions about it because there's a lot of, I didn't realize it at the time, but people have reached out to me and with kind of questions, the questions about my family or questions about the things that I didn't really include because the book very much focuses on my own personal experience. Like it's kind of like most of what's in there are things that I had to actually experience or witness or see, or they're things that are verifiably true that I knew about that would add context and make the content in the book understandable. But I didn't sort of, there's no rumors in there. There's a lot of firsthand stuff. So, and there's stuff missing. People have reached out and asked me questions. So yeah, I would love to do that. My thoughts on that, Stana, my thoughts on that, or yeah, book club. I would like to do that with a lot of people's books. Uh, I know my friend Mark Fisher is reading the book and he wants to talk to me about it. And I know I'm interested in talking to other authors about their book, not just Scientology book, but just, authors in general. Mark LaRoque says, hey, Mitch, Happy New Year. You should interview or be interviewed by John Atack sometime. He's pretty wise and knows a lot about Scientology and unethical persuasion. Yeah, I would love to do that. I've been meaning to reach out to John. I got his contact information because I would mostly like to talk to him about Manson because he's pretty adamant about Manson having participated in Scientology. And I kind of want him to convince me of that because I kind of don't think it's true. But I know he's looked into it much more deeply than he has. But hey, if you have any reason to interact with John, suggest it to him so that when I do write him, it will have already been in his ear. The Inappropriate Heifer says, okay, can I send you some videos of him singing and playing too? Of course you can. You have my email address, or you could send that to me on Facebook. Either one. I would love to see that. Any chance you have any control over the copyright? Maybe we could do something with Jimmy Swaggart's piano player. I mean, that's rich. I'm sorry. So I'm assuming that you all are subscribed and you've all hit the notification bell. If you haven't, please do. Just thank you in advance for that. And let me see, what am I doing here? So, yeah, I'm supposed to put these things up here. So, if you want to support my journey to hold the Church of Scientology accountable for its crimes, you can buy me a coffee. Some of you have done that, and I really appreciate it. And again, I'll extend my own offer that if you're ever in my neighborhood in Studio City, hit me up and I'll buy you a real coffee. But in the meantime, that's greatly appreciated. Also, thank you for subscribing to Scientology: The Big Lot. I'm horrible at this stuff, by the way. I'm not a good salesman. You can donate directly, which is a huge help because the best thing about being unemployed is when you get up in the morning, you're there. But seriously, I don't literally feel unemployed because I have so much going on. I just have to turn it all into a little bit more of a lucrative endeavor. Okay, hold on a second. Happy New Year and interviewed. Thanks for that suggestion, though, about being interviewed by John Atack. I think it would be fantastic. He is a very smart guy. Okay, hold on one second. Let me. So Vegan 3 says, have you seen Begley's book? Atack is in Outer Banks, I thought. Yeah, he might be, but I got an email for him. Are you talking about Ed Begley? Ed Begley, like as in Ed Begley Jr.? I knew him. We went to junior college together. Great guy, by the way. Yeah, Diana, listen, Duchess, Diana, I'm terrible at this stuff. No, like selling part of it. I'm just like, I was always a behind the camera person. I always had 30 or 40 people that I would have to lead on a mission to get something artistic done. And always felt very comfortable doing that. And this is a whole different thing. But thank you for that. Okay, so please tell me if you're what Begley you're talking about. Are you talking about Ed Begley Jr.? I see him. He lives not far from me. He rides a bike and he's a very cool guy. I've always liked him. I mean, I knew him years ago when we were in college, but he's a great guy. Okay, so Critical Thinking TV. What are your plans for YouTube channel going forward? Well, I definitely want to lean away from strictly Scientology because I don't want to identify my existence as having been, an ex-Scientology person or grew up in a cult or whatever it is. I think there's a broader message to encompass having to look abuse. It's just a matter of scale. I don't remember. I heard somebody say that recently, whether it's two people or whether it's 100,000 people or whether it's North Korea and it's a country, abuse is abuse. And I think we have an opportunity today to really have a reckoning with the kind of the level of human consciousness that has been unaware of how abuse works and how to fall out of it, how to stay out of it, and how to identify it and counter it, etc. And I would like to participate in that in a broader scale than just talking about Scientology. I'm not done talking about Scientology because I think I was reading some of my reviews on Amazon. Yeah, I read my own reviews. I know it's like I know how pathetic does that sound, but you want to get feedback. There's nothing wrong with getting feedback. I'm not reading them to define my identity. I'm not reading them to find out, ooh, do people like me? Do they give me 2 thumbs up? I'm reading them to see if my intention for getting something done actually landed on anybody. And one of my intentions was to make my book so recognizable as an authentic human experience that it didn't matter if you were ever in a cult. If you've ever experienced any kind of abuse or you're just curious about the kind of stuff, it would land with you. And a number of people have said, wow, this is like a mainstream book. This isn't just an anti, a book speaking out against Scientology. And one person said that they really appreciated having a viewpoint outside the Sea Org viewpoint because all of these books are written by former Sea Org members, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, it's just that's not what I am. And someone said, that they finally understood why people got into Scientology and what holds them there. And that was kind of like the purpose of my book. So as long as I can talk about that, I'm going to continue to speak on that. But I would like to move my channel into a broader niche than just Scientology. Because I originally just went on YouTube to promote a book, and I'm going to keep doing that. But I do think there's a bigger role that we could all be playing. All the creators could speak more broadly about the experience of abuse and high control groups, etc. Uh, Now, see, this is really interesting. Vegan Three says I posted a story from a mission holder saying Manson ousted from intro lecture. Yeah, I don't know what the deal with it is. I mean, I'm that's why I wanted to talk to John Atack about it because I told you I had this encounter where I was face to face with Charlie Manson, but that doesn't mean that I knew him or know anything about him or anything about this prison stuff. But I do know that there is so many books, Scientology books, randomly, especially in California prisons, because of their Criminon program, that it is just highly likely that. Okay, how did that happen? Balloons, come on. One of you is doing that out there. Stop it. Knock it off. It's not me. I'm not doing it. So it's highly likely that Manson encountered a book that was planted there by a Narconon program. Uh, but that doesn't mean he was ever in Scientology. And just because he went to uh, it's like I want to have enough information so that I can believe it, because I'm not going to just everything I've heard thus far feels like it could be just a rumor, and I just uh, Duchess Diana says, I think that YouTube channels diverge naturally, connect with other creators, of course, and some marketing help. Yeah, I thought I was pretty good at marketing, but now I'm finding that I'm not. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I'm spending too much time technically on book stuff and not actually thinking about the marketing. Uh, so yeah, if anybody is a marketing whiz, I thought I was a marketing whiz. I have a certificate in integrative marketing from UCLA on top of a degree in filmmaking. So I've certainly had a lot of education in media. Vegan 3 says, I think we're talking about, yeah, Junior, his book story I mentioned was fascinating on YouTube. What is that? I guess that's about Manson. I don't know. But, it's the reason why I want to talk to John Atack. I want him to tell me what the hell's going on with this Manson thing. Duchess Diana says, we wanted you to read yours last night for New Year's Eve. Was good. Oh, you wanted me to read some of my book? Is that what you meant? Let me know. Clear that up for me, okay? I need a little bit more information on there. I kind of don't want to read it on YouTube. I did. My girlfriend who died, who's before I got into Scientology, is a whole story. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's in my book. I wrote it it's a pretty a major event that led to the chaos of me getting into Scientology. And I did read a passage on the 50, like the anniversary of her death, just to pay on, to honor her life. I read a passage about her, a really beautiful passage, not the one where she died, but really beautiful description. And yeah, maybe I'll read stuff like that, but I don't want to do readings. I want people to read it and then ask me questions about it. So Critical Thinking TV says, are you aware of Mark Vicenti's broader work on psychological manipulation post-Nixium? Yeah, I do watch Mark's stuff. I don't watch all of it, but I've seen some of it, and I've interacted a little bit on his channel in terms of making comments and so forth. He's a fascinating guy. I have to tell you, the film that he did, What the Bleep Do We Know? That was a film that I studied long before any of the Nexium stuff happened. I think, he made that film before he was in Nexium, and I always had a tremendous respect for the way in which he made that film, the way in which he brought viewers into this idea that there's a lot of mystery in the universe and maybe things aren't what they appear. So I like Mark a lot. I'd love to actually do something with him, but yeah, I am aware of his stuff. I think he was a really deep thinker. I'm certain of it because of the film he made before Nexium. So it doesn't surprise me at all that he has so much to contribute post Nexium. Teen in the last 20 says, I respect your attitude. You are truthful, honest, and oh so human. You do you, and the rest will take care of it. Says, thank you. That's so, yeah, I've never figured out this YouTube thing. I mean, like I said, I came on here to promote a book. And then once you come on, there's a lot of people in the ex-Scientology space, they want to, and never-ends, they want to like talk to you and ask you questions. Da, 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 da. So I'm figuring out a little bit where I fit in with the whole thing, because I don't necessarily fit in like lockstep with the whole SPTV thing. I support it 1,000%. I've met so many wonderful people who identify that way, but I kind of don't, I'm like, yeah, I think you know what I mean. I'm here. We're all on the same team, but we have to be our own thing, so to speak. But I really appreciate that, Tina. I will do my best to do me. I don't totally know who me is yet. Uh, and it took a long time for me to realize that I didn't know that. 'Cause I think I was a little narcissistic when I was in Scientology, and I still think I may be a little. But, Duchess Diana, thank you. We're all, yeah, LOL. Yeah, thank you for that brevity. Uh, I'm having trouble with my mouse. So sorry. At least I have a mouse with my laptop. I'm not one of those people that complains about their yeah, yeah, I gotta tell you, Mark, I don't get it. Mark says laughing my AO, my LMAO, laughing my ass off with the balloons. Yeah, I don't get what the balloon. Okay, the gestures. I get the thumbs up. There you go. And now it's 2 thumbs up is fireworks. I need to look up these gestures. I have not looked them up to actually figure out what they are. And I do this a lot, and so I get these thumbs up things. Sometimes I do that, and I get that, and then I don't know, the balloons is maybe like this. Maybe the balloons go like this. Now, see? Okay, so, moving right along. Yeah, for sure, the gestures are keyed. Critical Thinking TV says balloons were keyed by some gesture you did. Absolutely. I just don't know what it is. It's just something. So I'm sure that uh, they only work on StreamYard with the latest, very late version of iOS, of Mac OS. I don't know if it's the same on Windows because it didn't work on my older MacBook Pro. Uh, so I just need to learn what they are. Okay, so this is Mark LaRoque. Yeah, Mark LaRoque. Didn't Manson say himself that he learned Scientology stuff while in prison? Yeah, he might have, but like, were you going to believe Manson? I mean, the guy he was psychotic, and I'm sure he did read Scientology stuff. Uh, Duchess Diana says, fucking mouse, excuse me. Duchess Diana says, I agree with Tina. There are tons of avenues, and with Gemini Sag, I don't think you will ever run out of things to discuss coming from the same astrology. Well, I don't know about the Gemini part of it. I mean, I was born September 26th, and I have a lot of Sagittarius, which I learned. It's this crazy story how I even know that. But yeah, yeah. Duchess Diana says, we wanted, in all caps, we wanted you to have a drink and read your good reviews to celebrate the new year so you could start the year happy and confident. Well, I did read some. Diana, were you not here? I did read some of my reviews. They really made me feel good. And I got an email from somebody that was kind of mind-blowing. Uh, I don't know if I can find it. I should have organized all this up. Yeah, it's really great to get feedback like that. Uh, I don't know what this person's name was. I'm just gonna take a second and see if I can find it. Ta-da. Just give me 1 second. You guys are having fun chatting amongst yourselves, so I think this was on my Scientology, The Big Lie. Yeah, I don't know where it is. But yeah, the positive reviews are, it's great to get them. It really is, especially when they're really relevant to what it is that you set out. Uh, yeah, I had my fan club, all 10 of you. Yeah, listen, Duchess Diana, thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, so I have like barely 4,500 followers, and the thing is like I said it last night, for me, it's about quality. I think I have just the most quality people that are relating. We're sort of relating to one another. And I think that's like amazing because it's just like, it's the quality of people that know yourself. Oh my God. That sounds like a Scientology ad. We had an ad once that said, know yourself, know life. But I know you don't mean it that way. I know you mean it in the absolute authentic sense. Um, hey, look who's here. It's Bone Phone, 26 pieces of beef plus 6 vegetables equals 1 sovereign stew. I did not know that. I kind of imagine when I eat that Irish stew that it's sort of something we would be eating back in the Middle Ages, except it was made out of mutton or something. Uh, It would be nice to get more people. Not that not that I'm unha I mean, I think I have great people. I think you people that are willing to interact with me, are pretty amazing. But it would be good. It would be good to have more people because, I see other people that I'll get, like, less than 50 people in a live, and other people will get, if they get less than a couple of thousand, they're upset about it. Oh, Happy New Year from Germany. Okay, cool. Anne says, Happy New Year from Germany. Hey, let me see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, it's early morning. I've been trying to do, I'm gonna be doing more streaming around noon, uh, which is a good time for Europe. So, because I really appreciate the feedback I've gotten from Europe, especially Germany, because I had those 2 German pieces on. Uh, yeah, I missed this. I'm gonna back up. Stana said, "Maybe you and Mark could talk on a live about the topic of figuring out who you are post Scientology." Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it's not s yeah, it is. The thing that was so devastating for me was all of a sudden not having any kind of community and not having any kind of structure or, also there's the whole career thing that just evaporated, but that whole idea of connection, and community is so important. Uh, I gotta tell you, as one who survived addiction in my younger days, and having researched that area a lot, and having spoken with a lot of addicts and people who survived addiction, all kinds of addiction. There's one thing that's common with everybody who had a problem with addiction, and that predating the addiction, some incident separated that person from something that they received emotional support from. And with that loss, they became vulnerable to addiction. It happened to soldiers in Vietnam back in the 60s when we had all those heroin addicts. It's the reason behind the opioid crisis. So when you lose the connection to people from whom you rely on for your emotional support and to whom you are supportive, it puts you in an incredibly vulnerable place, and it's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to recover from addiction, because you can stop the thing that is the quote unquote addictive thing, but going back and then figuring out how do you heal that trauma, how do you reestablish that connection, that's the real trick. uh so yeah, but I would love to do that with Mark. That would be great. I should probably send him something. The German, okay. Jane, the German pieces were fabulous. Yeah, I think they were. I felt really good about it. I mean, I was kinda doing it to promote a book, but, it also was like, getting the word out in EU, is important. I mean, they're a little bit ahead of us in terms of knowing that Scientology is a problem. Critical Thinking TV said it's hard to know who your authentic self is when you spend a long time in a belief system that convinces you something else. Yeah, that's 100% true. It's like Scientology. I've referred to it as possibly the greatest confidence scheme of our era, because they actually get people to pay them to then trade their own core identity for this fake narrative, whether it's the clear narrative or the OT narrative or with its Xenu story and body things and all that stuff. That none of that exists. It's all fake. And yet you really come to believe it. And, just like those ultra wealthy Scientologists that we were talking about yesterday, who the people who are actually supporting Scientology, as long as they all stay in that community, in that bubble, they experience a lot of emotional support. But when they try to leave, they end up having a horrible time. Uh, yeah, boat phone. Yeah, isolation plays into addiction. Yeah, there's a very famous piece of research. When there was, until this current opioid crisis, the highest level of heroin addiction in the United States history was during the Vietnam War. And they were really concerned about all these returning soldiers. And the thing is, when they came back, most of them recovered without much help. because when they reconnected with their families and reconnected with the things that are important to them, they the need for the drugs fell away, and they found it. So it's like this whole crisis was almost averted by just bringing these people back. We live in a society today that is much more prone towards to disenfranchising people and shoving them off to the fringes. And so, we're having this horrible problem with addiction. But they did this experiment with mice. They took mice and they isolated them. They put them in a cage. I don't know if you ever heard about this. They put them in a cage with nothing to do, nothing to play with, no fellow rat mates. And they put cocaine in their water bottles, and they gave them access to as much cocaine as they wanted. They all got addicted to cocaine, and they scratched themselves, they tore their skin off. Some of them, cocaine drugged themselves to death. And then they took some of those same rats and they put them in cages with lots of things to do, lots of things to play with, other rats, and they still gave them access to cocaine. And most of them didn't want it. They weren't interested in it. And so they sort of deduced from this that whole idea of isolation and disconnection is what sets up the vulnerability that leads a person to being addicted. So yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. Becky Sam says, "Hail Xenu, Xenu, my homeboy exists." Yeah, crazy. Yeah, he's a figment of your imagination. It's just like I still think back to walking into that course room and opening that pack up and looking at that stuff and actually going, "Wow, that explains everybody's weird behavior and why humans are so strange is because we're all inhabited by these other bits of consciousness. The way the whole thing's explained it and how you get there, you really actually do believe it. Uh, this is Becky Sam says Xena was the boogeyman under Elleridge bed as a child. I kind of think that as he got older and became really delusional and psychopathic, that he came up with that. I think as a child, he was probably not afraid of the dark. I think it happened later in life. Uh, Here's an interesting question from Critical Thinking TV. Is always trying to nail me, and here's her latest gambit for nailing me. How long were you in before you learned about the Xeno story and BTs? Okay, that's a fair question. Let me think. So I got in 1973, and it was a while because then I did the OT3 thing, but I was kind of in and out because I got off of drugs. I went back to college. I went to work. It's kind of in, kind of not doing anything, kind of and then it wasn't until the mid 80s. So it was like mid 80s. So it was like 73 to like 85, so 10. It's about 12 years. So let's say 15 years, 12 to 15 years before I found out about this story. And then I went a couple of OT levels above that to OT5. Do a peace sign for like this. Oh my God. You're a genius. Thank you. So it's peace sign. Oh, Mark, you looked it up. Where is it listed? Peace sign. You get balloons. Okay. And then you can get hearts if you do this, right? I understand. I guess I'm not doing it very well. Right? There you go. That's for all of you guys. Love you. That sounds a little culty, but okay. So thanks for solving that. Anyway, so that about 15 years critical thinking. That was okay. So Bone Phone says uh, when I read OT3 materials, I finally understood the Earth's iridium layer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I understood a lot of things. I understood why women didn't like me when they didn't like me. I understood because you could blame that whole BT thing. You could blame it. You could blame everything on that, and you never had to be responsible for anything again because like well, it was BTs, but they still made you responsible for it. Yeah, I think. Hold on, this says getting married cured me of my addictions. Took a while, but Walter Denny says getting married cured me of my addictions. Took a while, but Okay, so what addictions exactly? I can't imagine that. Maybe you'll fill us in a little bit more on that. Becky Sam says, question, are parents allowed to talk away the thetans of their own children? Talk away the thetans as in, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I did, but it did remind me of something though that, um, we've all heard of sudden infant death syndrome, a very tragic thing that can happen to kids. And okay, so when that happens, let's say an infant dies in the crib, in Scientology, they would call that the the Thetan did a bunk, and a bunk means you just bail from the body, you leave the body, and the body dies. That's called doing a bunk, right? And so there's a thing in Scientology, I don't remember, maybe Bone Phone, maybe you remember, somebody else remembers, that when a baby is born, they're not necessarily inhabited by a Thetan yet, and it can take, I think it's up to 2 weeks for a Thetan to then inhabit the baby body, right? So there's this idea, and I've heard some Scientology parents talk about this, that sometimes there'd be like a battle royale between a couple of Thetans trying to get into the body, and the parents are trying to like whoosh, wish some Thetan away from taking their kid over, because apparently when kids are newborn, when they're small, newly born, they're very vulnerable to being kicked out of the body and another Thetan coming in. It's pretty crazy. Uh, so that's what I can tell you about that. If that's relevant to what you mean about talking away the Thetans, talk away the Thetans of their own children. Uh, yeah, Diana, we figured it out. We figured it out, right? Both hands. I don't make a very good heart. There you go. There you go. Isn't that sweet? Uh, Critical Thinking TV. I know you're not trying to nail me. I'm just playing with you. You ask great questions. I've told you, I've texted you and said, please keep participating in this chat because you bring up great stuff. And I love that you ask me personal questions, and you're 100% right. And I actually appreciate you doing it. I was just messing with you. I'm sorry if you should have made it more obvious that I was joking, but I know you're not trying to nail me. Uh, Duchess Diana says, we say thanks, friends, in kindergarten. That doesn't sound culty. No, it actually doesn't. Thanks, friends. I mean, I guess friends, if everybody's a friend, then that could sound weird. Like all day long, the guy at the bank, hello, friend. The grocer, hello, friend. That could be really weird. Uh, yeah, Stephen N wants to know, question, are you allowed to cry in Scientology? Yeah, absolutely, you're allowed to cry. Okay, so, and sometimes you need to cry as a defense mechanism. I can tell you an interesting story about that. The way that the whole emotional tone scale thing works, and I've heard people say that, well, you're not supposed to show emotion below antagonism, which is at 2.0 on the emotional tone scale. But actually, what it really says is you're not supposed to show inappropriate emotion, meaning laughing at a funeral, or it's okay to cry when a loved one dies, but if you're still crying a month later, then it's a problem. It's inappropriate. So they do have a kind of definition of these things that justifies, makes them seem rational. But then ultimately it becomes so subjective, like who's going to decide what is appropriate or not, right? But the way that they kind of get around saying, you can't cry is by saying, well, it has to be appropriate. If you're crying, if it's appropriate crying, then that's okay. I hope that doesn't make sense. Okay, so Bone Phone clarifies, I'm not really an ex-Scientologist. I was just joking about OT3, my apologies. The thing about the Thetans fighting inside babies is fascinating. Yeah, that's cool. I just thought you might have been because you said, I get it, you were joking. And you can joke all you want like that. You can say, yeah, when I read OT8, that's when I actually figured out that whatever. Yeah, I get it. Thanks for clarifying though. Uh, Becky Sam says, so that's so sad to hear about new parents fearing that Thetans can attach to little babies, especially for women who suffer post-birthing depression. Yeah, this is absolutely an aspect of the kind of mental health harm that Scientology can do, which is, why I get so angry when they point to they point to problems in the mental health field and then try to raise money to fix them when they're doing unbelievable damage. But I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, the mental health aspect of that to a woman who's suffering from postpartum depression and then has to worry about the delusion of her baby starts crying and she starts imagining that there's a ghost who maybe the ghost of someone who died in that house years ago is trying to kick her baby's Satan away. And especially because they went through all the trouble to hook up on a Facebook group with somebody who had a death in their family, and they arranged to have, to wish that Thetan into your kid. It's crazy shit. Oh yeah, Doug, bless his heart, always said hello, friends, but it wasn't weird. That was just Doug. Doug had a great. Becky Sam says jumping on a couch is low tone skill. No, that would actually be, believe it or not, that was enthusiasm. What Tom did, it's very high emotion on the tone scale, but it was awkward, very awkward enthusiasm. Okay, because you could be really enthusiastic, jumping up and down and clapping your hands and being like that, and you could be being incredibly awkward. So, but it was not low toned at all. What Tom did, I actually, if for all the controversy, I thought it was cute. I'm like, oh, that guy's really in love. I mean, he's making an idiot of himself and he's being really awkward, but it's like, whatever. I mean, believe me, the one thing I don't think Tom Cruise needs to be held accountable for is jumping up and down on Oprah's couch. There's a lot of other things that he needs to be held accountable for, but that's not one of them. Not in my book. Anyway, Miss Sunrise Dawn shares, I still cry sometimes for my cousin that died 13 years ago. Absolutely. I cry for my girlfriend who died 51 years ago. I mean, sometimes, like, that's how we heal. That's how, I wish I knew a little bit more, like, about Buddhist theology when I was in Scientology. This whole idea that life is suffering, it's where we suffer is where our lessons are. And that's one of the things that Scientology completely denies the validity of the suffering of life. It doesn't mean that life isn't also joyous and wonderful, but suffering is a part of life. And yes, occasionally we have losses that, even though we get over them, we think back and we start to cry. And I think that's a very good, very healthy thing. So thanks for sharing that. Duchess Diana says, I'm totally fine with I love you, but without having Germany's many different definitions of love, I guess it could be read as culty or something worse. Yeah, I think there's a sort of friendly way. I mean, I don't like, guys who are creators who are like, I love you all so much, and I love you, and I love you, and I'm like, because you don't. It's like the overuse of the word genius. Like you do something mildly clever, and guaranteed somebody's going to say, oh, that was genius, right? But it's not genius. Einstein was genius. I mean, we should save the word. Like, use the word clever. I'm kind of word police in that way. I get really mad when I hear people say, 9 times out of 10 when they say narcissism, they just mean, what they really mean is somebody's conceited, somebody's a little self-centered. But narcissism is its own horrible thing. David Miscavige is a toxic narcissist. There's not many of those around. But I love you, Duchess Diana. So, being facetious, thank you for that. But I really do appreciate your being here, more than you know. Walter Denny, you're talking about mice and isolation and heroin, etc. Well, marriage got me out of my isolation and the things I was addicted to as a solo, including Scientology. Now I'm cured. That's great. So I get it, that the connection, marriage for you was a connection that then created some kind of emotional support that allowed you to get over those things, which makes total sense. Carolyn Rostica says, hi, Mitch. Hello. Thank you for making it. We're almost done here because we're at an hour, almost an hour and a half. We're going to go to an hour and a half, and then we're going to knock it off because my dog, Weston, is going absolutely nuts. I can hear him in the other room. Teen in the Last 20 says silent birth, sick, backward thinking. Yeah, it's not 100%. I'm not defending it, but there is some anecdotal. You do want to keep a birthing area as calm as possible, but you don't want to put restrictions on people like that they have to be silent. And you especially don't want to put a restriction on them that if they violate that silence, they will have ruined their child. That's horrible. But just the basic idea, when you go into a hospital, they have a good birthing room. They sort of dress it up like a living room. They make it, the lighting soft. They keep things calm. That's all great. But when you get into that restriction of like you cannot talk, that gets really crazy. JW says, "Hey Mitch, hi Mitch, everyone. Mitch, I would like to know if what you feel is the most creative work you have done for Scientology and some loving positive effect of your work, if you would like to share it. Thanks." Yeah, that's kind of a complicated. I don't mind sharing. I mean, I think the best film I ever did for them, I did not long before I left. I did it for the TV network. It's based on it. Once L. Ron Hubbard he wrote an essay called "My Only Defense for Having Lived." And you can tell from that title, it was the only thing he ever wrote that was a little self-effacing, where uh, he was very sort of, hey, look, I was just a regular guy. I wrote a book, and overnight I became like an enemy. He wrote this like a long time ago before he went completely nuts. And he was really letting his hair down. It's kind of really being honest about his situation. So I made this film. Miscavige asked me, like, we're going to make this into a film. And it was a lavish production, period, lots of stuff about his life. And I really put it, Miscavige will never show it. He'll never allow it to be shown because he's never going to let L. Ron Hubbard say that he needed to defend himself. And that's basically in this film, he's defending himself. So I wish I had a copy of it because I think it's a beautiful film. And I mean, other than that, I did some, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff I did was really creative because I was interpreting this crazy stuff and making it like look good and blah blah blah. But I don't want to sound like I was at the end of the day, I was enabling a cult, and it was kind of like if you ask Mark Vincenti that question, because he had a role like I had in Nexium, he except he was not necessarily asked to shoot all that footage, but he was, Keith Ranieri's camera person. I was, David Miscavige. I was the person who had brought all these things that Hubbard wanted on film to film. But I was a little bit more like, if you read my book, you'll read about it. I was a little bit more like Leni Riefenstahl, who was, Hitler's propagandist, who was an amazing artist, but she enabled Hitler to look the way they look. I was a little bit more like in that role, except I'm more apologetic than her. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Mark, JW, because you asked this question. I showed a film yesterday that I did, 6-minute film, anti-psychiatry film. And I think I'm going to show more of those because it's a way that I can show you the work that I did, but I can also take it apart and I can also kind of, do my own amends project for having done all that stuff. So I think you guys might find it interesting because you'll get the crazy thinking right from the horse's mouth. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, narcissistic personality, Kim Jong, Putin, PRC. Yeah, absolutely. And David Miscavige is absolutely 100% that very toxic narcissistic personality. He must have been going through incredible withdrawals when he wasn't doing those big events because of COVID. I mean, he was doing smaller events in Florida, so at least he was getting, like a little bit of a heroin fix because boy, he lives off that admiration at those events. Yeah. Oh, and Trump. We're not going to do politics, but yeah, that guy's definitely a narcissist. Okay, great. Miss Sunshine Dawn. Yeah. No, that's not the one I meant to bring up, but I'll bring the popcorn. Yeah, it's about the movie. So, okay, that's what I'm going to do next. Where the hell is it? There it is. Duchess Diana says, we'll be here to watch it, Mitch. Some of them, I mean, you can watch this stuff on the Scientology network, but why go there? I'll just record it and I can comment on it. So yeah, there's some really interesting stuff that I did that I think covering these Scientology principles that we could actually have a real dialogue about it and, stop the films. Because for me, that was a lot of fun showing that film and being able to like talk about what BS it all was and how we got it done. Hey, inappropriate heifer, I adore you, Mitch. Is that better? Yeah, that's good. That's really not culty at all. No, yeah, thank you very much. There's things I adore about you, and I think you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, you know what? It's now an hour and a half. I said we're going to go an hour 30. I'm going to bring this to a controlled landing. Again, I want you guys to realize that to know that you can buy me a copy, and you can go to mitchbrisker.com and you can buy some awesome merch. If you have suggestions about merch, let me know, because I know some people have wanted just the artwork without the Scientology, the big lie on it, and I could easily do that. So let me know. Thank you for subscribing and hitting the notification button. Those of you who have, you can donate to this channel directly at PayPal. My PayPal email is mitchbrisker@gmail.com. And as soon as I can figure out my way around the Discord, we can continue these conversations there. I'm working on doing that. We're going to take a look. So, okay, guys, thanks very much. I'm going to pick one of these films that we can take apart, and I'll be back to do that shortly. Thursday, I'm going to be with Mark. I think Wednesday, Thursday. No, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to do another thing with Mark. We're planning on that. And I've got all kinds of other stuff planned. So thanks for letting me hang out with you guys for a little bit of time on New Year's Day. Great things are going to happen for all of us this year. So good night. Oh!